Hello and welcome on my channel, Old School Gamer. This is the first mini review in English. If this episode will gather some non-Polish viewers, which I hope so, then more English reviews will appear on this channel. Okay, so it's time for the first game in the series of the Game Boy Advance, Driver 2. Check it out. Driver 2 was released for the Game Boy Advance in 2002, less than 2 years after the release of its PlayStation counterpart. This game was released in Europe and United States. The GBA version was met with relatively warm reception, but not the highest ratings. For example, GameSpot gave it a rating of 8.4 out of 10 and IGN 7 out of 10. The game's cardboard box contains the game's cartridge, of course, and a manual explaining basic gameplay aspects such as controls and story. Anyone who played Driver 2 on PlayStation will feel right at home here. The music, atmosphere, sound and graphics perfectly replicate what we saw on the Sony console. Of course, you play as a tanner, and the story unfolds roughly similarly to PSX version, featuring Jericho, Solomon Kane and Jones. The gameplay system is also similar, with the game divided into 30 missions. They follow standard themes: arrive on time, escape, chase or follow another driver. During the game you navigate the streets of fully open large cities, Chicago and Rio de Janeiro. Unfortunately, you won't be able to visit Havana and Vegas, which were included in the PlayStation version, but nevertheless, including 2 large open cities in Game Boy Advance game is quite an achievement. The greatest achievement, however, is the fact that you can leave your vehicle at any time and hijack another. You can also traverse the city on foot. This isn't very effective as Tanner moves exceptionally slowly and clumsily. However, it's amazing that you can drive and walk freely around the city on a console powered by finger batteries. The missions, of which there are 30, as I mentioned, are challenging. There are some quick, simple challenges, but just like on the PSX, most of them require us to prepare for quite demanding and tough combat. The game also features police, who will effectively hinder our progress through the city. However, once we're out of their sight, we can get out of our car, switch to another, and the felony bar is empty and the police loses interest in us. Beside the main undercover mode, we can also launch the classic Take a Ride mode, where we explore the city without any obligations and missions, as well as the number of minigames such as chases, escapes, survival, checkpoint races and smashing cones placed around the city. Collisions. Collisions are predictable but quite well executed. The car bounces nicely on impact. There are also various tables, crates and chairs, which can of course be knocked over during a frantic escape. When starting, you will also see some smoke from the tires. Graphics. Driver 2 is a considerable achievement on a platform as technically limited as Game Boy Advance. While the visuals aren't impressive today, knowing that we are playing on a console with a staggering 32 kilobytes of RAM and the processor clocked at just 16 MHz, we see them completely differently. We pass 3D models of buildings and cars, although not fully 3D, are quite detailed. Tanner and other characters look a bit worse, but with such a small screen, it's not too jarring. The framerate could be a bit higher, but it doesn't hinder the gameplay in any way. Story cutscenes are presented in a form of still images with captions, which is completely understandable considering the game's size limitations. The sounds are also good, with atmospheric music straight from the 70s, engine sounds and police officers shouting familiar phrases like "you're under arrest" or "stop". The atmosphere is absolutely breathtaking. On the downside, the cities are quite similar. This is also due to the game's limited building models. For the same reasons, the sound also quickly becomes repetitive. This concludes the short list of downsides. as the game has an incredible atmosphere that compensates for its technological shortcomings and limitations. In summary, Driver 2 for the Game Boy Advance is a great game. It features 2 large cities that can be explored both in car or on foot, storyline from the original, beautiful 3D visuals, and excellent sound design. And most importantly, anyone who played the PlayStation version will immediately feel the incredible atmosphere that practically pours out of the Game Boy screen. I highly recommend it. It's a must-play on the Game Boy Advance, even for those who haven't played its bigger brother on the PlayStation. And that would be all. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell, and if you want to support my work, you can also buy me virtual coffee on the Buy Coffee portal, link in the description. Thank you for watching, goodbye.